I don't know, there's places, I mean, I've been to Cuba, done work in Cuba, which is very interesting. Like I said, I'm interested in places that we talk about that are kind of off the map at the same time. I'm also interested in places that have grown up outside of the hegemony of our culture, so I'm interested in how, what does that look like? What does it look like when everything's not the same? So places like Cuba are still interesting for as long as it lasts. And I don't know, right now the Middle East is really so critical and becoming more and more critical with the decline of oil reserves and the way that the energy economy is affecting the world and will continue to. It's the crux of the conflict between East and West at this point. So that's why I think I'm very interested. It's where we're involved, and yet at the same time, hardly any coverage. So interesting. We talk about it every day. Hardly any coverage. Most people who are writing about these subjects have never been to these places. The vast majority. So, you know, this Iran conference I'm going to next month, they put it on. The International Center for Journalists called me and they said, we're putting this on because most of the journalists and pundits and op-ed writers who are talking about Iran have never been there and they don't know any Iranians. So we want to educate them. And I thought, well, that's wonderful. Somebody gets that fact and is trying to mitigate it. But that's the case. So therefore, I'm interested in pursuing this for now. And I do have a little bit, I do become, you know, feel like when I feel like I completely know something, then I move on, and I'm really not interested in continuing to rewrite the same kind of work all the time. But at this point, there's still a lot for me to learn. You know, it's very fraught. I don't think you can find subject matter that's more politically fraught, especially because of the U.S. positions in the Middle East and the policies that it engages in. It's very difficult to reach a U.S. mainstream U.S. audience. I mean, Harper's, they're educated, more liberal, more, I think, curious about the world, perhaps more able to talk about U.S. foreign policy, things like that. Right now, there's not much of substance going on in U.S. media, period. In fact, there's not much talking about what's going on in the world. There's not much foreign coverage. Iraq is hardly making the news. You know, 8 soldiers were killed today, and I was looking for it on the news. And they're not talking about it. So, I mean, these are their own people that are being killed as well. So, I don't know. I don't know. It's you know, if you don't talk about it, it's like it didn't happen. And that's the thing about media, and that's what interests me too, because I'm interested in talking about things that are happening that other people, that I think are important and that we need to know, that other people are either not airing or not aware of or not talking about. But no, I haven't been in that experience. I'm not sure that Fox News will invite me on. I go, but good. I think it's a number of things, and first of all, in places like Iraq and even in Afghanistan, in certain areas, it's very difficult. I've had opportunities to go to Iraq in the last couple of years, and I'm not going to go, because basically it would be green zone. It would be green zone. You know, the reporters that I meet who are there, they're like, we stay in the hotel, we do not leave, because rockets are hitting our base every day, and we're not going to get killed so that our network gets a story. That's what they're telling me verbatim. And yeah, I mean, I have a friend who was just for 6 weeks embedded with the Canadian troops in Afghanistan who's like, didn't leave, hated leaving because there were IEDs on the road. And he said, the thing is, when you're in the middle of this, you're not getting anything. You get, even if they blow up your Humvee, you're not getting any story. You're just driving down the road. So unless you go about it completely differently, which no network is going to pay you to do, and that is to go, and it's possible, like you can go into, not so much with Iraq, I mean it is possible, but you should look Iraqi, you should speak fluent Arabic, I mean, really, you cannot just wander in. You'll be dead in 3 minutes. But it's possible. Like Mia Rosen has gone in a few times. You still do see people like Patrick Coburn from The Independent goes outside into the, into Baghdad and different places. These people have excellent connections, fixers they can totally trust. They're taking huge risks. But probably, yeah, I could probably count on a couple fingers who's actually doing it in Iraq. Nobody. Even for Iraqis, incredibly dangerous. Afghanistan, different. You can go in. You can make connections. You can do it through aid organizations. I know people who do this kind of work. They're not doing journalism, though. They're doing human rights reporting, that kind of thing. They're doing it. So it's certainly possible. But who's going to pay you to do this for 6 weeks? And maybe you can't bring a camera crew. So it's going to be a different kind of story. And then the thing is, yeah, it's interesting. Like, how often have we heard from Afghans, from Taliban? When I was in Lebanon, in Beirut, I went to the Hezbollah headquarters in the southern suburbs that were bombed in 2006. I was really interested in getting some Hezbollah interviews, and they were open. Like, they Google you, they find out all about you. You have to be completely open with them because they're very smart and very organized. And they have a great media center there that will completely do a profile on you. And then they'll decide if they'll give you permissions. And they gave me permissions to do the interviews. But I was in this position where I was like, who's going to be interested? Who's going to listen to what Hezbollah has to say? I can't think of anybody who would buy the story. That's the problem, actually. But there's a lot of stuff that journalists would like to do. No one's going to pay for it. They don't want to hear that side of the story. And it's really unfortunate, but it's the case. There's, once in a while, if you get somebody who's like a most wanted man, they're kind of close. If I got an interview with Osama bin Laden, I can assure you I can sell it. But short of that, and it's going to be very, very difficult. Yeah. Other questions? Are we done? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.